Hello and welcome to the next phase of this new Android LCG design. In the previous one, we discussed meat running, and then I've got a template of meat running, and so far it's working out pretty well. Still some rough areas that needs to be smoothed over, but for the most part, I feel that that's been done. All that it really needs is heavy testing. In this phase, I'm going to be presenting at least 3 new options to go through, as well as a fourth to show where I see the cards moving on in the future. As I said, each one of these adds a new layer of complexity to the game, but as mentioned before, I want to add layers of complexity and then pare away and simplify the game, hopefully it should leave a completely new game that cannot be called Android Netrunner anymore. It will be Android something else. The first thing we're going to be looking at is buildings and nodes. In the game of Android Netrunner, we have 2 axes so far. We have servers, and then we have ICE. Actually, tell a lie, we do have all 3 axes. We have upgrades. But it still doesn't feel quite enough. I think a new layer needs to be added, and I'm thinking buildings and nodes. So how would this work? So if we look at the conquest card on the right, there'd be certain cards that represent buildings and locations. And as we mentioned previously of meat running, there'd be situations. So there'd be color blocks representing, oh, okay, this is what's in the building and what you can do there. And the numbers on the bottom could represent like advantages. So one side could represent what the runner can do, one side can represent what the corporation can do with those buildings. And the idea being that there'd be buildings that help the runner, buildings that help the corporation more. You could also probably put cards on top of this. So imagine stacking cards that are similar to ICE on top of these building cards. Either way, this is not, again, none of these ideas are set in stone yet. These are just ideas I'm throwing out there for where I could move to next. If I don't get any response, I'm just going to do all 3, right, basically, and go for everything. Okay, story encounters. Story encounters are more granular representations of what's happening in game. So far, we've got resources, and when you click the resource, you're doing an action in the real world. And then when you're running on the net, you're hacking into cyberspace. That's cool and all, but what about moving to a location? As we stated before in the previous slide, I was thinking about having locations and buildings and stuff like that, places you could go. It'd be easy to represent that if you was using a marker. The game X-Wing has ships with rotatable numbers on the bottom of their model plinths, on the bottom of the model, and you can mark stuff on each model to represent how damaged it is and what kind of stats it has. And I thought that'd be quite cool, because then you could have actual units. So then the corporation could send out heavies, and then the runner could have to move from location to location. Or you could have representations of how many tags or what hand size the runner has. And I thought that'd be quite cool. And for the most part, the corporation can't act on the runner unless they mess up, basically. But if they're tagged, then you could do all these kind of things directly. And I think this would be quite cool. So looking at Lord of the Rings here, the middle lane is the actual story mission that they're going up against right now. And they have these story quest cards. And the more stuff they beat on the board, the more tokens this quest gets, and then you can move on to another quest. So I thought that seems like a pretty cool idea. Why can't Android have something like that? But the thing is, I don't want a Android version of Lord of the Rings, even though that would be quite cool that they can make their own thing. I still want it to retain some of that flavor of Netrunner. So in that spirit, I'm thinking that perhaps what could happen is that you still encounter various things from the corporation deck. And what you might have is 2 corporation decks. One corporation deck is pretty much just ice, and maybe you could have heavies that they come out into meat space from there as well. But that doesn't seem to be clean. I think it'd make more sense if one deck deals with net space, one deck deals with meat space, and the runner has to work with whatever they got from their single deck. Either way, this hasn't been fully explored yet. This is only a proposal, and again, if I get no responses, I'm going to move forward with all 3 ideas and try and clean up a bit and put them into the new version of the Android game and see what happens, and then finally pare it away and make it a more simplified version. Okay, scoring lines. Currently, you have to just find the agendas and score them, or you have to install advance them and out as a corporation, and that's pretty cool and all. But how about that if the agendas are just laid out in the beginning of the game, and then you know, okay, so this is what this corporation is trying to do. Perhaps there could be some information. Maybe these could be face down currents, kind of thing like that. But the idea is that you commit resources to acquiring or controlling these agendas, and to do that, you've got to play the game. So let's just say you're a runner and you have to access X number of cards or X type of cards that are required to be in the corporation's deck, but they're not as flimsy as agendas. Let's say they're more interactive. So you've got to access key cards from the corporation deck, and the corporation can use these key cards to gain money, like green level clearance, for example. Imagine that green level clearance can be played like an operation, but but they might want to hang on to it. So, and then, like, if they hang on to it, and then I don't know if we can install advanced it, but it'll be something similar to that. And if they do, they commit to acquiring an agenda. But the runner could also just commit like mercenaries and stuff to getting agendas by force, and then as they make damage, those mercenaries get pulled away or something like that, maybe. But either way, you could commit forces towards controlling agendas on the storyline. And there'd be various ways of doing that. I think this idea has the most potential, to be honest. Again, I think that having you could still commit. The thing is, with all these ideas I've got, you can blend them all together. So you could have a story encounter, and the story encounter affects you acquiring an agenda, lets you commit resources to it. Oh, you broke into this server, and when in this server you find some good thing that helps you get some secrets towards controlling this agenda. So maybe there could be some point types. So each building and location, like on the first slide, could contribute the 3 types of points. That's 3 types of resources for controlling stuff. Let's say secrets, capital, and let's say resources, just general resources. And you need those to control certain agenda things, and each side has to do something different thing to get hold of that. Also, that way you could try to maybe you could have a way of incorporating agendas from other corporations, but there'll be some kind of penalty. Or, for example, let's say you want information. Like there's 3 types of resource control. Let's say NBN is really good at getting black material or information resource, which is used to control an agenda. And if you use an NBN one, you need to get lots of information, but you're playing as HB, and HB is really bad at information because no one likes bioroids. But it'd be very handy to have this NBN agenda. But what HB is really good at is, I'd like to say, not capital. And let's say resource. I've got to finalize this. I've got to finalize basically 3 types of resource, and just say corporations are good at getting A, B, or C, and one corp is just really slow at getting all 3. And I don't know how it would go, but I think it'd be quite interesting. Either way, I've shown you all I. Let's get on to the final slide, the color pie. So here's my breakdown here. Again, this ties all what I've been saying together as well. I think NBN as a faction should have a large board state. What I mean is that they should be in neat space, they should be in net space, they should have assets everywhere, they should be pretty spammy. Now, hold on, before you start panicking, the thing is, these assets are cheap to deal with and cheap to res. And what I mean by that is that there'll be 0 to 1 to trash, and there's going to be very little reprisal for little to no reprisal for trashing them. And the idea is whoever gets the story first makes the rules about the story. So if NBN has an asset out, that means they've got hold of the story, and they're controlling the message, and this probably giving them tags or card draw or something. Just give them a little something, not too much, as you can see by the econ, which is low drip. So maybe you've got like a pad campaign, but it's 0 to trash and 1 to res, and each tenant's giving them 1. No, 2 to res and 0 to trash, but it's only giving them 1 credit. So you can get to that and get rid of it very easily, but they won't have 2 or 3 out because that's what they do. And they might have a pop-up window guarding it, so they'll get a credit either way. So it won't be too bad for them, but it costs you time and money to get rid of it. And their game style is control and denial. So what they'll be doing is they'll be denying you money, denying you cards at your hand, so that they were to target, say, oh, you've got this in your hand, okay, let's get rid of that card. Oh, you've got money, let's just get rid of that because you're tagged. Or you're controlling a building right now, let's just make it less effective because everyone in that building thinks you snitched on them or something, or you're doing something bad and they want to report you and tag you. And it gives them information resource to put towards agendas, and that's going to be storyline encounters that can happen. Wayland is going to be tall. What do I mean by tall? Imagine ice that's single subbed but like high strength, like 10 strength. Well, except for maybe barriers which will have multiple subs, but the idea is that a lot of that ice is like strength 5 and above, but only single subbed. NBN ice is going to be small and cheap, but everywhere basically. And most of this ice is going to be expensive, so a lot of corporations don't want to run it could run NBN stuff, which is cheap and everywhere, but again, I don't know why you'd want to, but it's an option. And I think that Wayland should be able to be in meat space a little bit as well, but not very much. The econ is going to be the most varied of the whole corporations, not necessarily, how do I describe this? They're going to get burst econ, they're going to get drip econ, they're going to get the bilateral aid econ, and MBN is going to have like reprisal, like as a start, they're going to have reprisal cards, they're going to have taxing efficient ice, in some cases they're going to have some misdirection, but it's never going to be as effective as the other corporations. Well, it's going to be equal to or less effective the other corporations in some areas, but never as focused as the other corporations. But this is also going to be cheap, low-grade stuff, whereas Wayland's economy is going to be, well, they're going to have like their own version of what everyone else has because they're Wayland. They're the money faction. They're going to have easier time with money, but it's going to be all be spent on everything. Everything they have is going to be expensive as hell. And I think they'll balance it out, hopefully. Their playstyle is going to be reprisal and removal, so they're going to, if you steal an agenda, it's going to be punitive counter-strike, it's going to be trash your rig, under the bus, all that kind of stuff. It's going to be trashing and removing stuff. It's going to be getting them bad publicity or some other negative thing for doing so. But they're going to have cards that mainly focus on that. HB is going to have a mixed board. So there's going to be a various build where you build wide, build tall, like single subbed ice. There's going to be lots of cheap ice. Basically, HB is just going to be, you don't know what it's going to be, basically. Their assets are going to be mid-priced, have mid-effect, basically. And the idea is that they get steady drip econ that's going to be costly, like a Adonis campaign. You have to pay 4 to res it, but you get 3 per turn if you can res it. But it's like only 2 or 3 to trash. So you can get the money, but you have to protect it. And you might get some protection out there first of all. And the idea is that they tax the runner and they can do mob stuff per click. So basically what they are now. So maybe put some barrels in the field and it gives you an extra click, or takes a click from the runner if they interact with it. Basically, if they leave you alone, you get very efficient. If they try and stop you, it costs them a lot to get rid of your stuff. Now, Jinteki is going to have a wide board. What that means is they're going to have a lot of servers. And yeah, a lot of servers with one ice. And whereas Wayland would have like maybe one server with multiple ice. NBN is going to have like a lot of servers, a lot of ice, a lot of stuff. Now, their assets are going to be like cheap, expensive. There's going to be all different kinds, and some of the assets are going to bite back. That's the idea anyway. And their econ is mostly going to be bursty. So, for example, you played operation. It gives the runner 3 credits as well as giving you 5 credits. So the runner will always tend to get something out. Or like if you have drip econ, it's going to let them draw cards as you get money. It's going to help the runner as well as helping you. And your main condition is going to be to kill. Of course, the more assets you have out, the more help they get in preventing it from being killed. And that's the idea. But this could all be a misdirection. You could in one turn trash your assets, and it's like, oh, I don't have any more of this help. I thought I was going to get this help, and then you go in for the kill if they don't try and stop you with what they've got left. A trick of light. There's going to be all kinds of misdirection there. Neutral cards will just be mixed. It'll maybe be weaker versions or staple cards. Like hedge funds, a staple card. So they might have a staple card like that, or just like a weakened version of what any corporation has, so that it can be used by other corporations. And that's it basically. So if anyone wants to contribute ideas, just refer to this color pie. That's what I want. This is what I want the game to have to be more focused. I look forward to seeing you in about a month's time. Hopefully, then I'll be trying to nail down some of these ideas, get them into focus, get them on paper. Then I'll be redoing another round of cards. Okay, until the next update, see you later.